Today on Locked On Canadiens, les enfants terribles of hockey podcasting get together to talk about this Habs series.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Locked On Canadiens. It is the playoffs. We have our besties in the house. We're going to be talking all kinds of stuff, including wondering whether the Canadiens could still win the series. It's not over yet. But first, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and of course, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian, with our special guests, Andrew Berkshire and Imam of Game Over Montreal. Well, technically, Andrew's Game Over Everything, but Imam is the star of Game Over Montreal. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Kay, why don't you lead off?
I am certainly doing. This is the first time that I'm actually really nervous ahead of a Habs playoff game, like in the series. And I'm thinking about it and I'm dreading it, but also go Habs, go.
No, you can't say that anymore. Now it's allez, allez les Canadiens, allez. You can't say that. This is real. This is real, 100%.
Oh yeah, yes.
There were
the buses.
complaints to the OQLF about the buses, and honestly, I was so happy because the other day when they made the playoffs, I saw Bravo les Canadiens, and I was like, we're so close to the Go Habs Go, and then all of a sudden, all this happened, and I just have to say, as somebody who is a fierce defender of the French language and the French identity of Quebec, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Anyways,
can I have my conspiracy theory on that? I don't
Yes.
think there were any complaints. I think it's a full-on lie. Every time there's a chance to get attention and like steal joy, we get a story like this. I think it's straight up just there's attention to be had. Let's grab that attention. It's a purely political theater move. And I was talking with some friends today, just out in the back alley, like the kids hanging out from the neighborhood, and we're all talking about how like the kids are playing bilingually. They go back and forth constantly, and that is what's special about Montreal. And as much as you have to protect the Quebec, the French language in Quebec, which I also am in agreement with, what we have here is special too. It's something that doesn't exist anywhere else, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you're cheering any team in any language or in French in any part of the world, you're gonna say go whoever, right? Like it's Allez les Bleus for the French soccer team because it just sounds better, right? But Go Habs Go is just part of the fabric. Anyway, we got all into this discussion, but what I really, really, really want to talk about is with the Montreal Canadiens coming back to home in this series for the first game. Kay, you did mention you were a little bit nervous. Let's talk about how we feel about the series overall. Ian, I'm going to ask you first. I know we already talked about it, but having slept on it, what are your thoughts now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I still think that there's a chance for them in this series. I think we've seen moments where the Canadiens showed how good they can be. And that's sort of where we expect this team to be at right now is moments. We get moments of greatness. We get moments of a glimpse of what we're hoping to see more consistently in the years to come, right? Like we're hoping that we have more than one line, but that one line they have right now is really good. Spencer Carberry was saying that he thinks it's one of the best lines in the league, if not the best line in the league coming out of Four Nations. So I think, this whole thing is playing with house money, right? We weren't expecting them to be there. If they win a game, cool. Like I'm fine with that. I am just mostly excited for these players to be rewarded on Friday night with a fully packed Bell Center for a playoff game, which is, I think, ultimately what they wanted, right? Nick Suzuki talked about it after the Four Nations, seeing that building full and loud, and he felt kind of, jaded about his time and that they had got to a Stanley Cup final and it wasn't able to be that. And now that he and the rest of that team gets rewarded with that. I'm mostly excited for them. I'm excited for us to be able to see it, but I'm excited for those guys to go out there and knowing how angry they were after game 2, just how mad they are. I think we're going to see them fired out of a cannon on Friday night.
And I think that's the hope. And so, Andrew, you've been doing a lot of deep dives, especially with the underlying and the stats and everything for years. For as long as I've known you, that's what you've been doing. And you had a series on Nick Suzuki recently. So, how confident are you that the Montreal Canadiens aren't fully out of this? The Montreal Canadiens do have its shot. Like, if you're looking at first glance, a lot of the times the numbers don't look that great. It looks like Washington dominated. But do you have any like micro observations that give you some hope about this series?
Yeah, I think that each game the Canadians have had one period where they looked terrible. Second period in game 2, they looked sloppy to start, and then when they allowed the goal right away after scoring, I thought they panicked for like 10, 11, even 12 minutes. It was really rough looking, and that happens with a young team.
Yeah.
This is what 1/3 of the roster is their first playoff experience. It's a lot.
Mhm.
Kay and I were talking recently. Actually, I think it was Connor. Sorry, that like Caden Gooley, for example, is a guy that we're looking at in this series as a vet. This is his
Yeah.
first playoff experience, and he's been incredible. But everybody's having to field that situation, and I'm very impressed overall. I think that the first 2 games, almost everything that you could imagine went Washington's way in terms of the officiating, the bounces, and they squeaked out barely 2 wins, playing, they're hyped up. It seems like they played their fastball both games, and they're barely able to get out of both of them against the 8th seed with no second line center. I'm not confident if I'm Washington. Honestly, I think Sam Montembeault has been better than Logan Thompson in terms of not just stopping pucks, but controlling play after those pucks were stopped. Right? Thompson has been a rebound machine.
Juicy rebounds.
Very.
Yeah.
And I'm with Ian that they still have a chance here. I don't think that they're out of this series at all. And one thing that I'm going to be looking for that I've been watching the first 2 games consistently is when Nick Suzuki has his shot from that right side where he drifts in from the blue line, Logan Thompson is cheating short side high every single time. Suzuki will be coming down, getting ready to shoot, and before it's even released, Thompson's got his arm up. And I think if Suzuki starts shooting low, we're going to see a few goals go in like rapid succession.
So whoever's been texting Marty, whatever we say, please text him the thing that Andrew just said. If it's not Marty himself listening. All right, Kay, I'm going to give you kind of the final word as we get towards the end of this segment. Yesterday, Ian and I were talking, and I said if the Canadiens win 2 games here in Montreal, if I'm Washington, I start getting nervous. And Ian challenged me and said, if the Canadiens win 1 game in Montreal, if I'm Washington, I'm starting to get nervous. So you just admitted that you're nervous about this 3rd playoff game. And I have to say the nerves have been building up for me too, because on day 1, I had no nerves, right? I was very chill. I was like, this is house money, right? But I think the problem is we saw that the Canadiens could keep it close. And we saw that it was like, it could have gone either way. It's overtime, right? Like we saw the bounces go. So then in the 2nd game, I was a little bit more invested in actually having a win. So do you think it's possible that the Montreal Canadiens can take control of the series tonight at the time that everyone's listening to this?
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. I just think that that this is a crowd that can really make a team feel invincible in a weird way. But even just beyond the crowd, I think this team believes in themselves. There's a burden of expectation on Washington. Even 1 win, I agree with you. And even 1 win, I think it rattles Washington. But 2 would be great. I will tell them that.
2 would be great, but and I think that it was evident kind of in the body language after game 2. After game 1, they all looked disappointed because it was their first playoff game. They managed to come back, right? And then it felt snatched away from them. But after game 2, they looked really angry at themselves, and it feels like that's because they expect to win, right? And I know we talked about house money and all of that, and I do also just want to remind everybody, like this is a learning experience for all of them. We need them to experience this devastation, but we also need them to experience wins. Like going into next year, the expectation is that they're going to make the playoffs, right? How are they supposed to know how to win a round if they don't even know how to win 1 game? So I feel like there is now a little bit more expectation on them. But I love that you talked about the burden of expectation being on Washington, because all of the predictions were Caps in 4, Caps in 3. It was predicted to be a cakewalk. And I think the Canadiens are making it clear that it's not. So
Yeah.
that was kind of like the main question that I wanted to wrap up, but I want to get a little bit more into the nitty gritty and give the floor more to our guests rather than myself. And that's all going to be coming up in just one moment. We're going to get really tactical, and that's coming up in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Or head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. I'll give you that site again. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. All right. So I did kind of want to talk a little bit about tactics with our special guests. Was there anything that you saw, and we're going to talk also about personnel changes and lineup changes and all of that. Was there anything you saw, Andrew, that made you feel that the Montreal Canadiens had improved upon a particular thing they were doing throughout the season? For example, the forecheck maybe, or anything like that.
Compared to the season?
The regular season, yeah.
Maybe not. I feel like they haven't played their best game so far. I think that they're in a better situation than it looks, but based on like the score and the score of the series as well. But I think the biggest thing that I'm noticing tactically in this series is that the Washington Capitals are wildly overextending themselves positionally to lay these late hits, especially in the first periods. Like they're just all over the place. And if the Canadiens start to make some decisions quicker instead of holding on to the puck all the time, they will exploit that. I think it's only a matter of time. And my takeaway from these first two games that, yes, Washington has been able to carry the play physically because they've gotten away with everything. I don't think that's going to fly at the Bell Center. Refs are human too. And, it's not a conspiracy thing. But when the Bell Center starts to go crazy, if the officials act like they did last game or the game before, there's extra pressure on them to make calls, and they're going to make calls, and that's going to change the game. More than anything, if the Canadiens can get the first goal relatively early in that game while the Bell Center is excited, watch out.
The only thing in my mind right now, Andrew, after hearing that, is Montreal typical from Peter Laviolette. Exactly. All I hear right now is him screaming that on that HBO 24/7 or whatever it was.
Do you ever notice that it's always the coaches that coach the styles where it's like cheat so much that they can't call it all? They're like, oh, I can't believe they'd call this.
Yeah. Yeah. Rod Brindamore turns purple every time a guy gets knocked over, but like he's totally fine with his guys being the way they are.
I'm still bitter that Rod Brindamore interfered back in what was it, forever ago when the Canadiens faced the Carolina Hurricanes in the playoffs. He interfered with, I think it was Cristobal Huet, and knocked him into the net. Damn Rod Brindamore.
We're still not over it. All right, let's
Habs
turn
typical.
it over. Habs typical. Let's turn it over to the power play. We know it's an issue. It's an identified issue. I think it feels like the Caps are getting shorthanded chances without even trying, which is a little bit frustrating. Kay, what would you do if you were in Marty's shoes?
I would simply stop missing the net. No, I would simply stop passing to Line constantly. To me, this is a goalie. The biggest thing that the Canadiens are not jumping on here is this is a goalie who's, while he is very good, lets out rebounds like crazy. when you're on a power play, the defensemen have less space to essentially just worry about pushing you away. I think we are also concerned about the line A shot, which, like, we'll have that conversation later, I think. But more than even that, I just wish that they did more to be aggressive around the net. Um, I'm not, like, saying that they're not being tough. I just think that this team isn't gonna outskill the Washington Capitals. They're gonna have to outwork them, and I say that all the time, and it's because I think that's just how this team is built right now.
Or exploit an inefficiency. And Ian, what are your thoughts on that?
Exactly.
Because you did make that observation that the Washington Capitals were giving them no space in front of Logan
Yeah.
Thompson a lot of the time. But what do you do on a power play to kind of take that away?
They have to make a decision. I think first of all, and we'll talk about Line A later on. We don't know at this point if he's playing in game 3, but I would kind of doubt it at this point. They didn't play him for an entire period. The dude looks like something's bothering him. Like it's not a good time for him to be playing. But I think the trend that I see with Logan Thompson is less so the rebounds and more so where if you get him moving laterally, which is true for all goalies, but if you get him moving laterally, he starts to swim a little bit. The Nick Suzuki goal in game 1, he's on his way to the Zamboni door. Like it's not the Evans empty netter that he missed. He hit the post. I know everybody's, freaking out. Oh, what a great save. He ended up getting a piece of it after it hit the post. But he's so far out of his net on the other side because the Canadians went across the grain. The problem is that's the most challenging pass to make in the sport because that's where all the dudes are. They're all in that spot on the ice to defend that exact move. So I don't know if the play is to do that from below the goal line, to have somebody like Slav down low, moving the puck a little bit more laterally there, or if they're just going to have to get greasy with it, put a bunch of guys in front of the net and have Lane Hudson throw a 40-mile-an-hour ephus pitch and see if it, can float its way into the net or get tipped on the way in. Like, unless they get another shooting option, unless Caulfield becomes that trigger man on the wall, which might happen, they're going to have to get greasy on the power play. But in general, like, I think the goal is to either make it so Logan Thompson can't see it or get him moving laterally, because I think either way, that's your best shot to beat him and, quite frankly, every goalie in the game, right? They're only human.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion right now that whether he's too hurt to play or not, they need to drop Line A off the power play, or the top unit power play at least. It's not even really about him. It's the same situation that we saw when Shea Weber was there, where too many guys are deferring to him. They respect the shot too much, and they're going to it too often because they're frustrated. They don't know what to do. I think they need to put Caulfield back in that Line A spot, bring Demidov up there, and just tell those 5 guys, move around. Like Uri Slavkovsky, I don't want you necessarily standing in front of the net trying to tip shots in on Logan Thompson. I want you running through the slot, like continually circle around, push guys, get in their way, make chaos, and the rest of the guys move that puck, because those are 4 guys that can move that damn puck. Like, very few players in this league can. There's no way they should be struggling this much on the power play. There just isn't. As much as this is a team that maybe lacks depth of talent at the top end, they have more than enough skill to pick apart the Washington Capitals penalty killers.
Between the choices they have, absolutely. And I do love how you said they respect the shot too much, because right now he's not even shooting. And I think, they respect something that doesn't even exist at this point. So are there any other adjustments that you would make to the way that they're playing that you think are doable within this short amount of time? Andrew, Kay, I'll leave it up to you guys.
I mean, I think there's roster decisions to be made. I have a piece that's going to be published on Eyes on the Prize shortly, talking about Line A specifically, and the fact that it's a small sample size, but you pair the numbers with the eye test right now. He does not have it. Whether the shot is there, that's not really the frustrating thing. It's that he goes into a play and he'll make the first play. Sometimes it's even a good play, but then you can see his body relax. He's not fully engaged, and everyone is except for him. And that's a problem. And I would go to Kapanen right away. I would make the 4th line Kapanen, Armia, and Heineman, and just tell them play fast, be vicious, and be defensively responsible. Because that line, I feel like with the speed and size that they have, could actually make things happen. And The problem with Line A right now is he's matching up against a team that is both physical and fast, and he's doesn't really like being knocked around, even though he's a big guy, and he's not fast enough to get away. So it's like the perfect storm of everything going against Patrick Line at the same time. He's in a cold streak. It sucks, but you got to move on. There's not enough time to sit on your hands.
Yeah, there's really not time. So in that scenario, is Jake Evans becoming that second line center?
I mean, I would say the Dvorak line's the second line at this point. I would say like the line in Newhook, Demidov line from the moment they were put together were the fourth line. As much as people look at it like the second line in skill, but utility wise, they were the fourth line. It goes Suzuki, Dvorak, Evans, then the leftovers.
So Evans then has to babysit the leftovers.
No. Evans has Demidov and Newhook.
Okay.
In this situation, and kind of like Evans kind of gets elevated, right? He gets to play with more skilled guys.
So he's very good at babysitting. So
he is very good. He's a great babysitter, and he gives like some defensive responsibility to Demidov as well, I think. And I liked the way that they played together in the third period last game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We are running out of time, so we do have to get to our mailbag, and we'll be doing that with our wonderful special guests and standing by with the questions. And that's coming up in just a moment. But first, this episode is also brought to you by Game Time. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it is next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer, and with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. I love those last-minute deals, but what I also really love is their all-in pricing. It shows the total cost up front, so you don't get surprise fees at checkout. The app will even show you panoramic seat views so you know what you're getting into before you buy. And they have ticket coverage, which means you're protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we are running out of time with our wonderful guests. Like, I can't believe how fast this episode has gone by, but it is time for the mailbag, and I'm going to turn it over to my co-host Ian, who I've basically sidelined for this entire show.
Nah, it's cool. Ian, I get a day off. This is sick.
Ian, the floor is yours.
All right. Actually, the floor is going to be Kay's to start because this question is from Kay. Now that the Habs have qualified, I feel comfortable talking about this since we're no longer at risk of putting bad juju out there, which was a very good call, Kay. For more of a lighthearted question, if the Habs had missed the playoffs by 1 or 2 points, what totally real and not at all trying to cope non-Habs thing would you blame on it? For example, when I was in the stages of pre-morning and had reached anger, I kept thinking about that one Rangers game where they got jobbed in New York by the refs. That's the game that I remember as Jeff Gorton punching the wall at Madison Square Garden. I remember Arpin wrote that in his story after the game, and I was like, that game meant a lot to Jeff personally. Yeah, that one it lives in my nightmares. I would just point at Brandon Montour. The overtime winner Seattle had, the hat trick that he had against Montreal earlier in the season. I would just personally blame that one man. Andrew, do you have a moment in the season that you look back on if Montreal had missed and God, man, that was the moment?
I feel like the entire last stretch of the season where they were like redlining David Savard for whatever reason, and I understand that he's gonna retire and you're going to play him in the playoffs. I totally get that. But going hard on there to end the season when you could have just thrown in somebody else and you had many chances to do it. Like, it's not like Arbor Jackeye was going to stop them from making the playoffs, right? Like, that was not going to happen. I feel like that was a mistake from Marty. I understand why he made it. He wanted to like go down swinging with his veteran guys, but not my favorite move.
And I think Ian already knows mine, but it is that Sens game the Friday before the end of the season that I will not stop talking about because it was an eminently winning game. And that was the first day the Canadiens let the moment get bigger than them against the worst possible team to do that against. And I would have forever held it against them and not forgiven them for that loss. That's where I was.
You guys were supposed to blame somebody, not the Canadiens. Come on.
Yeah, it's just too much accountability. We can't do this.
No account. Okay, fine. I'll blame Stutzla diving then.
Yeah, there
Let's
you go.
go.
Get him.
One too many dives.
This next question, I don't think we have a specific person that it came from. There was a bunch of people who asked this, and we might be headed there Friday night. Do the Canadiens go 11-7 now? 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. If Laine is not healthy or just they just don't want to play him, that way you can sort of get Xhekaj into the lineup, which seems to be everyone's modus operandi to do anything lately. So Kay, I'll start with you. Does 11-7 do anything for you?
Or Marty already leans on his guys. I don't know. I feel like this team would be best if they were a four-line team, but they're not. Like, that's just the reality. Can you afford to give up the 5 minutes that Patrick Laine was playing? Maybe. I just know Marty also doesn't like it, but he's done it before. My answer is a very solid maybe. That's my answer.
I love the diplomacy there. Andrew, where are you at on 11-7?
I hate 11-7. I've always hated 11-7. You talk to players, they hate 11-7 because nobody has a regular rotation. I think specifically for this series, it would be a bad idea because they're relying on Nick Suzuki to do a lot. And if you take away a rotation, he's going to end up playing like 27 minutes, and the Capitals are trying their very best with Suzuki, Hudson, and Caulfield to just hurt them. They're trying their very best. It's very clear. I mean, they succeeded with Laine with that knee on knee, right? So I wouldn't want to do it. If anything, if you're like determined to get Arber Xhekaj in the lineup, play him as a forward. Tell him, go be a power forward.
Yeah.
Pretend
Go
your
do a
name is
thing.
Florian, and just like if you get the puck, rip it, man.
I just don't like it because to me 11-7 means that it's the regular season and you've been so bad at cap management that you literally cannot play a regular roster. It feels like loser behavior. We are not doing that. But also, I do like your idea of playing Xhekaj as a forward because technically you're putting him in the game. Technically, you're playing another defenseman, but you are not. You're still playing your 12-6.
How long before
Mike
he
at
boards
forward.
somebody?
It depends on what. It depends on the way that Tom Wilson and Nick Dowd behave. I think
3 seconds.
I mean, if
In that
Arber
case.
Xhekaj looks at Tom Wilson at the rate that guy's falling down, he's gonna draw a major penalty. Like I just can't believe the levels of cheap ladder we are seeing from Tom Wilson. It's
pretty sad. It's pretty sad. I joked about on TikTok the idea of like starting David Savard as a forward, just at the starting lineup, and just tell him beeline for the net, and we're gonna shoot the puck in there and just jam. And because could you imagine it's possibly David Savard's last game and he scores like the opening goal like 30 seconds in, shiny ice, the Bell Center would blow up. But if they did it with Xhekaj too, it'd be just as funny.
It would be really funny.
Barrel in, cross-check Logan Thompson in the face, like, what? It's not a penalty now.
That or just like have like Tom Wilson consistently try to bait you and you'll be like, I don't know her.
Yeah. We've got time for one more question here before we head off. This one's from Paul Branchot. I do not think I noticed Jayden Struble much during the regular season. That isn't a bad thing in and of itself, and he could be doing his job cromulently without drawing any attention. Why then is he giving me more panic attacks than any other Canadiens defenseman? Seeing him below the Capitals goal line has me screaming at my TV, especially when it seems like nobody is picking up his vacated spot. Is this his usual game, and have I never noticed? Please make Struble make sense to me. I think I'll just kick this one off by saying I think all of these defensemen jump up and have like one shift where they play forechecker for some reason. Alex Carrier does it a lot and particularly well. Like he's really good at look up and be like, oh, who is that? Why are they up behind the goalie? Oh, that's Alex Carrier. Well, you need to skate backwards now. Like, where are you going?
Get back there.
Yeah, I think Jayden Struble's game has really improved this year. I think his stick checking has become one of his best, if not his best assets, which is saying something because he's a freak of nature type athlete. But just he's very active at the blue line. He'll just knock pucks away and kill plays before they start. I think that's why Marty has such a hard time finding a way to get Xhekaj in. Is like Jayden Struble's game is pretty good, right? Like he's not. I don't think he's getting crushed out there. He is getting anchored with David Savard, late stage David Savard. So, it's kind of difficult to find something there. Andrew, any thoughts on the perfectly cromulent, in this case, Jayden Struble?
Yeah, I think he's been really solid. I've liked him asserting himself physically in this series. I still, every time I watch him, the vibe I get is just slightly bigger Frankie Bouillon. That's who Jayden Struble is. Like maybe a little bit more refined in his skill set, but he just has that ability to look not that big, and then a guy runs into him and they explode. Like there was multiple times in the last game, I believe, where somebody tried to do something fancy around Jayden Struble, and he was just like, no, and knocked them over. And I like that about him. I like that Caden Gooley can bring that. And it's not just our Berkshire guy that can set the tone physically. And I know that there's a lot of talk about the Canadiens being too small, but that's just a lazy narrative. And it's hung over because they still have Caulfield and Hudson, and they still think this is the team with like Brian Giunta and Mike Camilleri. It's not. This is a team with a lot of big players. Yeah. They look small because the other team is cheating all the time and not getting called. It's very easy to look big when you.
They're also built like refrigerators. Like
I mean,
some of those caps are massive.
The caps are big. They are big.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you, but
no, we're down on Struble.
I'm a big fan of Struble's game. I do think there were a couple of moments though in the first couple of games where I was like, so I feel like any defenseman, those moments really stick in your mind. Whereas like all the stuff they do right, a lot of times you forget because they're not doing it loudly, right?
We made a whole bit about it. We have a Matheson meter where we measure him by magic or tragic Mike. Like we know, like we are very susceptible to the good and bad, and we lose all of the minutia in the middle. Okay, I'll give you the last thoughts here on Jayden Struble. Is he the problem that some people are making him out to be?
No, and I think people, whether they're doing it purposely or not, are just looking for the easy way to get Arbor Jacki in the lineup.
Yeah.
And because they've been trading off, I think that's the easier thought. I think Jayden Struble's been good. The reason why you panic when you see him behind the net is because his defense partner cannot cover properly for him if he can't get back, I think. I just realized I haven't had my Caden Gooley mentioned, so I'm throwing Caden Gooley.
There you go. Man, that was talent. Almost 33 minutes without you mentioning Caden Gooley.
I know.
We almost made it. We'll reset the clock on that one. Yeah, I think you're right. Jayden Struble is the path of least resistance to getting Arbor Jacki into the lineup, which is why everybody has sort of put a crosshair on that player, which is entirely unfair. It is not Jayden Struble's fault that he is in the lineup and Arbor Jacki is not. All right, I think we'll wrap there. We'll do our trivia question from yesterday because I have a bit of a mea culpa on that one. I had written down the incorrect answer and somebody correctly answered before I made a fool of myself on this podcast. The question was, when was the last time the Canadiens came back from a 2-0 series hold? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
2-0. I'm trying to think now. It's been a while.
3-1. I got 3-1.
Yeah. The 3-1s are funny, but a lot of times they won the first game. Like the Washington one, they won the first game. Toronto, they won the first game.
No, Pittsburgh, they lost the first game.
Yeah.
And then they won, and then lost.
They won one of those first ones in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the last time they went down 2-0 and won. And I feel like it happened against Boston, but it was like a long time ago.
That's right. It was Boston in 2004. They lost the first two in Boston. 3-0 and 2-1 in overtime. Then they went up, or they won the next game, but they did go down 3-1. That was a 3-1 series that did start 2-0. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah.
I had originally thought it was 93. I thought that was the last one, the first round series against Quebec. I think it's just funny when all of those answers are 1993, because then in our brains we all go, then they're going to win the cup this year if they come back. Yeah. We get very close to doing that. So shout out to Simon Hildebrandt on YouTube, who had the correct answer and corrected me before I got to make a fool of myself on a podcast. So that's really, I'm the real winner in this because I didn't look stupid in front of my friends.
All right, real quick, where can people find you? And actually us tomorrow night too.
That's right. Game Over Montreal streams live after every Habs game. It's either myself or Kay or Connor or Mark Dumas hosting. And the next game, game 3, the first game here in Montreal, our friends Ian Boisvert and Laura Saba are going to join Kay and I for a special 4-person panel just like this. right after the game, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to go probably way too long because that's what we do.
And there will be talk of handsomeness. And on
Yes.
social media, both are at Blue Sky. Andrew's at Berkshire, and Kay is at Line Composition on Blue Sky. As for us, you will find us wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, free and available every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day. You can also find us all over social media. We're on TikTok at Locked On Canadiens. We're on Blue Sky Locked On Canadiens. We're on Instagram at Locked On Canadiens. You can also find Game Over at all of those places, by the way. You're either following us, we're following them, find them through us. You can find my co-host at Maybe It's Ian. You'll find me at The Active Stick. Absolutely check out Game Over and Habs Eyes on the Prize if you don't already. If you listen to the show, you should be. And in the meantime, we want to thank everyone for listening. Our show will be back whenever the Habs next win a game, or on Monday, depending, whichever comes first. And we will all be on Game Over after Game 3.